Lois Tverberg has spent years helping readers step into the Jewish world of Jesus and recover the context, language, and worldview that bring color to the New Testament. Her books have become trusted guides for anyone who wants to approach the Bible with deeper humility and greater respect for Judaism. What I've always appreciated about Lois's work is that as a Christian writer, she doesn't reduce Judaism to background details or interesting trivia. She invites us into a way of seeing and listening that honors the Jewish people and takes the world that shaped Jesus, Paul, and the New Testament seriously. Well, today we're going to talk about Lois's journey, the teachers who shaped her, and the ideas in her books that continue to influence how many people read the Bible. All right, Lois, it is a joy to welcome you to the Bridge Builders Forum podcast. Your work has impacted so many people, and I'm really grateful for the way that you've helped really just so many Bible readers, Christians, of course, in particular, to read the New Testament with deeper humility, context, and respect for the scriptures and for Judaism. And so I'm excited to talk to you today about your journey, your books, and really the themes that have shaped your work. So welcome. Good to have you today.
Well, thank you, Ryan. Thank you for having me. Appreciate your hospitality, your Zoom hospitality.
Yeah, right. We got to have, it's a new kind of hospitality these days, online hospitality.
Right. It's weird to, you talk about, I'll be there. I'm going to meet with you, but there's no actual, it's just us talking to our goofy computer. So
isn't it funny? I know it's a whole different world. Anyway, well, it was good. Well, speaking of there, we did have an opportunity to connect in person just recently. We were both at the Society of Biblical Literature in Boston, had a great time, and so good to see you. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. But hey, before we jump into our conversation, I just want to make sure folks, I think a lot of folks in our audience do know who you are, but for those who don't, Lois Tverberg is a prolific author and speaker who has been writing and teaching about the Jewish background of Christianity for many, many years. Lois's books have circulated widely, and she has really influenced many, many people to think about the New Testament and the Christian faith in ways that many describe as bringing a richness and a depth to their understanding and faith that is just deeply enriching and elevating. So, Lois, again, it's really good to have you today on the Bridge Builders Forum. I'm looking forward to folks hearing your story, even what you're working on now. So great to see you.
Well, thank you, Ryan, and myself too.
You got it. All right. Hey, so I want to start with some of your story. So one of the things that I did not know about you until just recently, when I was just kind of revisiting your work, is that you are a molecular biologist by training. So I just had no idea that was part of your story. And really your story is very interesting. So I want to start there today. So talk to us about, how does a Christian molecular biologist from Western Michigan end up studying and writing about the Jewish roots of Christianity?
It is a little bit of a puzzle, huh? How do you go from biology to Bible? That's what I say. It starts with B-I. Right. So it's like logical.
Yeah. Okay. Logical. At least, we're staying with the same letter.
That's it. Or to give you maybe a little more background is I grew up in a very devout home. Lutheran Christians. My grandparents were on my dad's side. My Tverberg grandparents were missionaries in Madagascar, and so we were pretty pious. And my parents had walls of Christian books, Billy Graham and Catherine Marshall. We had lots of everybody, and so I felt like I was a part of a very Christian family, and yet I think I went through what many people go through, is that when they pick up their Bibles, they're struggling with, I don't quite get it. I remember, I'll give you a couple pictures of that really strike me now. They're just shocking when I think about them. Lutherans have confirmation class when they're 13, 14 years old, where you have to learn, the very basics of what's it all about. And you were talking about the commandment that Jesus, it's from the Shema. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is your God. The Lord, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart.
Yeah.
That's a great commandment. You know what?
Yes.
You know what? My response in my head was during confirmation when I was 14, and teenagers are jerks and rebels sometimes.
I understand.
But I was sitting there thinking, we're talking about the God of the Old Testament, and I don't even like that God. Why would I love him with all my heart?
Oh, wow.
So there's a little, I love Christ, speaking as a Christian. I love Jesus, but 80% of the Bible, we kind of skip that part. Even the words of Jesus are like, oh, I don't quite understand them. Let's read Paul.
Yeah.
And
sure.
So honestly, that I'm just giving you a little background of what is fueling my passion about what do I do. And
I think a lot, Lois, if I could just jump in, and I want you to continue with your story, but I think a lot of people, a lot of Christians that I've met through the years can, I think, relate to that. Just like not understanding, the words of Jesus, much less the words of the Hebrew scriptures in the Old Testament. So I think your story is probably resonates with a lot of people.
Bingo. Yeah, that's it.
Yes.
I'm asking the same questions as others, and yet the Lord has kind of supplied me with some great answers. And boy, there's like, oh, this is helpful. Boy, I need to learn more. So you can, well, and the way I describe it is, my upbringing at home, I was a Christian, but I didn't know what to do with my Hebrew Bible, my 80% of my Bible and I kind of barely, the New Testament was it was full of, I'm not sure what we're talking about here. And, which I think everybody goes through. That's fine. Then when I went to college, I still love Jesus and I love my New Testament, but then I get to college and my New Testament professors, more than one of them was convinced that Jesus didn't really claim to be the Messiah. It didn't really, and most of the New Testament documents were extremely late and totally unreliable and maybe written in later. So just by his ardent followers. So I kind of, by the end of college, I was really, I guess I'd say a mess with faith and Bible. So that's where I was, and until I signed up for a class with a fellow named Ray Vander Laan at my church. So that gives you a little background of what got. And honestly, when I was in college, I could have easily gone into, taken lots more religion classes. But honestly, my religion classes were a huge turnoff.
Interesting.
I have a brain that likes to think, and my family, my father's a physician, I have sisters who are lots of science in my background. So I said, science. I use my brain for science, not Bible.
So you got a PhD in molecular biology. Wow.
Yes. My undergrad major was in physics.
It kind of makes sense though, Lois, because you have a very scientific, you're a very good writer. You're very readable. I think that's part of the appeal why your books have resonated with so many people, but you're also very methodical and explain things and detail oriented. And so I can see, it kind of makes sense to me that that's part of you. You have that science background. It comes out in your writing.
It's like the way, this will date me. But back in the 1980s, there were the commercials on television about the National Enquirer for inquiring minds that want to know.
Oh, yeah,
and
I remember that.
I had a brain that was an inquiring mind that wanted to know, and I always had questions about science and Bible, and so it was like, oh, I'm thinking all that. That's what compelled me. I think that's how it works.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned somebody very important. Then I want to press in before we get into some of your work, and I, want to talk about some of the, certainly some of the key books that you've written and some of the concepts. But you mentioned just a moment ago Ray Vander Laan, and I know you are always very quick to give credit to him for the influence he's had, and I'm sure there are people in the Bridge Builders forum audience who not only have heard of Ray Vander Laan, but have been impacted by him. I mean, he was a real pioneer in this idea of trying on a popular level, helping people understand the Jewish context of the Bible and specifically Jesus, the New Testament, and so forth. So talk to us a little bit about Ray Vander Laan and what impact he had on you. It sounds like at a pretty critical juncture.
Yes, definitely. Yes. I'm actually surprised knowing how much impact he's had on at least the people I know. And I'm West Michigan, lots of people have been very impacted. And then he worked with Focus on the Family to make videos. This is for the people who've never heard of him, because there's a surprising amount of people who don't know about him. And then wow, I have to go find him. I grew up in Iowa, actually. I'm not native here, and I came to Western Michigan to teach biology at Hope College. And the second year after I arrived here, I was looking for a church, and the church that I was visiting was going to have a 30-week-long series with Ray Vander Laan, which people in the area, we all call him RVL.
RVL. Okay.
RVL. Everybody, that's his name. Everybody. I had turned my little car radio on and heard him on Focus on the Family. I was like, that was good. I learned about my Bible. And so maybe I'll sign up for this. And it was, he is a powerful speaker.
Yeah.
And so at first I just said, well, maybe it's just him. He's just powerful. But actually he had studied in Jerusalem, at what now is JUC, and he also had gone to Yeshiva University and studied from Jewish professors, which now I realize was what you just said about being pioneering. Yeah, that was really pioneering.
Yeah.
So he did a big series, and I was in a class where he was showing us his sources, Christian scholars who had been writing about Jesus, Jewish context, and then also Jewish sources, Jewish Encyclopedia, the Torah commentaries by Jewish Publication Society. And that actually, at first, is like, well, why would I want to read the Jewish stuff? They don't believe in Jesus. And so, but honestly, then I had to stick my toe in the water and realize, oh, actually, you can learn an awful lot from people who don't believe exactly the same thing you do. So that's beautiful. So he did I say he is a high school teacher. He actually has close to a PhD. I mean, he has well beyond a PhD's worth of knowledge, but he has been teaching in our local area, and he's well beloved and then he made many, many DVD recordings for Focus on the Family, and they're all now viewable. They're mostly in the land of the Bible, and so it's like going on a tour and seeing the culture in the land, and so that was his thing, and that's what got kind of whetted my interest. And when he handed us his sources, then my nerdy brain really kicked in, and I wanted a little bit back for why did you get into writing. It was because I wanted to understand why he was not so cynical as my professors in college who had kind of given up on their faith in God. It's like, what are you reading that is so different than what I heard in college? I want to find so that was my curiosity, is I need to know where you're getting this, because this isn't sounding like what I heard before.
Yeah, that's great stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, that's, I think, a good segue into talking about your first book. And so I think I've counted that you've written 5 books on the Jewish context of the Bible. But you're probably best known for your 2009 book that I know many people have read that are, I'm sure, watching, called "Sitting at the Feet of Rabbi Jesus." I've got it. Actually, I've got 3 of your books sitting right here next to me, but I've got that one featured right here. So we're going to discuss some of your other books as well. But I'd love to go back to this book, which really put you on the map. So talk to us a little bit about what inspired you to write "Sitting at the Feet of Rabbi Jesus," and really, I'm curious, hearing just over the last 15 years, how have you seen this book help people to think differently about Jesus in the New Testament?
Okay. Well, the book, a person doesn't just plunk down and write a book. There has to be some training involved. And I actually, with a friend, started a ministry in my area where we were teaching people about the land culture of the Bible. I started writing articles. And so I was growing by what I was teaching and reading and studying. And then after years and, a few years, I could see that, I was contacted by this woman. Her name is Ann Spangler. Here, I'll hold up the book.
There it is.
Ann Spangler and I.
Yeah, I've got mine right here. I'll hold it up with you.
That's right. And
yes.
Ann is a good, close friend now. She was my agent, and she's retired. But she said there's such an interest among Christians in their Jewish context, Lois. And I had written a little book that is now being republished by Focus on the Family. It's called "Listening to the Language of the Bible," and somebody had given her a copy. And she said, "Would you like to write a book with me?" Or partly because the publisher said, "Lois, you write like a professor. You kind of lecture too much, maybe warm it up, tell stories a little more, and make it more." Yeah. So that's a little background of why is Ann on it. And she's an excellent, she taught me how to tell better stories and kind of warm it up. And she's really, she really is an excellent author too. So I admire her a lot. And actually, she puts in quite a bit of Hebraic stuff in her books now. So you can look her up too. Okay, so that was background. But honestly, these are, the subtitle, every time you see a subtitle, a lot of them sound like they're just trying to manipulate you, this is a lie to manipulate him. And the subtitle here is "How the Jewishness of Jesus can Transform Your Faith." Well, I had to say, it's not a lie. It transformed my faith. It made so the idea of Jesus as a Jewish teacher, a rabbi who was raising up disciples, and that if you understand Jewish culture, you would understand, his most basic words are things like, go into all the world and make disciples of all nations. And you're like, well, what's a disciple? Well, why don't you ask a Jewish scholar? And that was one of the most important questions I was starting with, was what are rabbis and what are disciples and what's expected of a disciple? So you can imagine that's kind of an important thing to know about.
That's a big deal. Yeah.
So I wrote quite a bit about like how rabbis taught, what was expected of disciples. That's obvious. And other major sections are ones like discovering Jesus and the Jewish feasts. What is it? maybe it helps to understand Passover, to understand what he's talking about at the Last Supper.
Yeah. But these are a lot of times, these are all concepts that don't get talked about a lot of times in just normal Bible teaching.
No.
Right?
Well, it's because you need some Jewish context. You can't, Christians will just wander around and, well, now we've got the internet. You can maybe Google things, but there's so many things that are big cultural background, important things to know about that if you don't understand them, it's going right past a lot of things.
Yeah.
One of the most challenging things was one of the first things I heard from Ray. I did not believe him when he said it. He said, Jewish teachers, rabbis, tended to assume that people knew their scriptures well. And we mean the Old Testament, Hebrew Bible. And so often they would just tell a parable and just throw in a little, that the kingdom of heaven is like a woman who puts a little yeast into 3 seahs of grain or flour or whatever. Like, oh, we're talking about the story of Abraham and Sarah when they made 3 seahs of bread. And that little 3 seahs is a hint that expects you to go back and say, what are the implications of Abraham and Sarah? When Ray said that, it's like, oh no, that's not true. It's impossible. No one would know that. That's just silly. I felt like it was some kind of code talking. Then I started reading more and more Jewish books, Jewish scholars. Heschel does it all the time. Every line is practically has some hint to something in it. So
that's what you have a whole chapter in there called Stringing Pearls, where you kind of like explain this concept. Yes. And again, when you understand that these concepts are like, I think something you just said a second ago is so important, is that these were concepts that were assumed by the writers of the New Testament. They assumed that their audience knew these kinds of things. And you're illuminating these things for modern audiences. And I think it's helping people to now they're seeing things that they just didn't see before as they read their Bibles.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's quite an exciting privilege, but it
is.
And one answer it gave me was about my New Testament professors who, actually my New Testament professors were kind of, I could say, good enough scholars or knowledgeable enough to say, we really do need to appreciate Jesus in his Jewish context. But what they meant by that was that we just mean that he's just a Jewish rabbi. He's just a wise rabbi that everybody made too much of a deal out of. That was how they were reading it. The thing they didn't understand about his Jewish context was that he's expecting everybody to know their scriptures and his references, and that he made all sorts of very strong, powerful claims by what he was alluding to out of his scriptures, and as he's speaking about himself, about his mission, and he's using his scriptures often to make, you see it that his audience picks up stones and wants to stone him, and us Christians like, what did he say? I don't know. I don't know, what was that about? And so, so it was actually, I had encountered a group of Christian and Jewish scholars in Jerusalem. This is actually, Ray had put me onto the work of a group of scholars in Jerusalem, Jews and Christians, who were studying the Jesus of the Synoptic Gospels and what he was hinting at, how he was using his scriptures, how he was preaching and teaching, and how he was lacing things together. And he was making those claims that made perfect sense if you knew his Jewish context and knew his scriptures. So,
that's great stuff. If you're enjoying this conversation, I want you to know that the Bridge Builders Forum is more than just a podcast. We're a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping Jews and Christians better understand their faith, the Bible, and each other. Your support helps us host these vital conversations and create educational resources and interactive learning experiences. And yes, all donations are tax deductible. To give, just visit bridgebuildersforum.com and click donate. Every gift makes a difference, and I want to thank you for standing with us. And if we can serve you in any way, send us a message. You just mentioned scholarship.
Yeah.
And I want to talk to you a little bit about that. Now, again, I want to make sure, especially for those who haven't read Lois's books, her books are very readable and accessible, but something that I really have always appreciated about you and your work is the way that you do engage with scholarship. And even if you're not writing academic, you're not writing in an academic style, you've done the work. You've done the research and engaged the sources, which is so important. So, as we just mentioned in the introduction, our paths crossed this year at the Society of Biblical Literature. And, we were both actually talking about how in different ways and contexts, we both sort of have a similar objective to help make some of the ideas in scholarship accessible, to folks in pulpits and pews. But honestly, that's kind of a rare thing. You don't see many people writing for a popular audience who also are present in the academic world. So I just want to ask you just briefly, why is it so important for you to stay rooted in scholarship, and how has that shaped the way you write and teach?
Thank you for asking. Great question.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, Lois, you're one of the only popular level writers I see at the Society of Biblical Literature, and I think that's awesome. But anyway, go ahead and answer my question, but I just think it's great that you do that.
No, thank you for saying that. No, and it does help that my own background was in the sciences. And so I understand how academia and how science are supposed to work. You need to know what people have worked on before, read what is available, and then if you're going to build on it, you need to build coherently, and then people can work through what you have said and say, does this make sense with the data? You've got your data here, and you've got and so I had enough faith in the process that I understood that the academics are going to be the best place but then I also had my own professors in college that they had the same set of data as the scholars I started reading in Jerusalem, and they had done very poor things. I'm sorry, but one thing I could see that they didn't know the languages. They worked only in English, not Hebrew and Greek. And the scholars in Jerusalem were working in Hebrew and Greek and in the rabbinic material. So I could see that it's kind of, talking biology, it's like you've learned from biologists that are working with, they maybe barely have a non-functional microscope or maybe a magnifying glass. And then you've gone over to a lab where people are working with electron microscopes, and they're looking at everything right up close. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, these people know what they're doing. Those people don't, or they're really not, they're not accessing. And so I realized that scholarship is where, it's because of my own scholarly background that I could, and the fact that Ray had pointed me to a group of people who had been doing it well, and I could see the difference between good and not good. And I also, to most, there are many people who are curious, but you just, if there's nothing out there, then you're kind of, you're asking questions about Passover, and who can you ask but your Jewish grandmother or your if you have scholarship available and it's good, it's it will be more helpful than anything else that you can use. Well done scholarship, just the way to go. So that's all I can say is if you find the good scholars, keep reading from them. and not lots of people study, they want to know about the Jewishness of Jesus, but they don't know the scholarship. And so it feels more like, well, I learned to make challah bread.
Yeah.
It takes more effort, but it is so much better at the end than I learned to dance dances and make bread. And now I've learned about my Jewish context. I'm being a little insulting, but
I know.
But if that's all is available to you, that's all you got. And so right now I read about it. I've read about it online. That's what people say now. But I guess to me, I realize that good scholarship will propel you. At least it will prepare. What's nice is that the way scholars work is that you're not obligated to accept everything that you hear.
Sure.
And you file away, well, this is this guy's hypothesis. This is this guy's theory. And you keep them all in their little separate files. And as you hear more, some people who you did believe are like, oh, well, okay, you lost a few points. And this other one, oh, this is working more now. And so that's how it works. It's like a puzzle and you're working together, and that's how it works.
I think that's wonderful, and I couldn't agree with you more. And just how important it is just to hear the way that different, people that are doing the hard work, they're digging deep into the languages, into the context, and and I think just to hear, even if, and something you just said that's so important, you don't have to agree with it, but even hearing viewpoints that you don't agree with can be helpful to sharpen our own perspective and help us to think about things in new and different ways. And that's so important when we're talking about something as significant as the Bible.
That's right.
So I just think that that's a neat part of your work. Again, you have just a really great way of taking some of those ideas and making them accessible. And it comes out, I think, really smoothly in how you write. But Lois, just another thing I want to just kind of slightly pivot off of that, and something I appreciate about your work is how consistently you engage with Jewish sources and how you even speak about Judaism, both ancient and modern. And that's something I've always appreciated about you. And this is so important because, again, as we've noted, your books are primarily for a Christian audience. And so I want to ask you a question. I'm curious to what extent and in what way your books have been received by Jewish readers and thinkers who've interacted with them. Again, your audience is a Christian audience, but certainly, at least sitting at the Feet of Rabbi Jesus has circulated, a couple 100,000 copies have been sold. So it's out there. So my question is, what kind of feedback have you heard from Jewish readers, and how do you maybe even understand how your work plays in helping Christians develop a more respectful attitude towards the Jewish people and Judaism?
I would say it'd have to be kind of rare, and it's just partly because I'm writing on the I'm writing for, they say, trade level, not academic level. And so I can't say that I hear an awful lot of Christian scholars ever touch my books. It's Christian non-scholars that like my books. And I do hear there are some nice letters that I've gotten from people with a Jewish upbringing who are believers and who like my books a lot. Oh, lots and lots of that. And actually a lot of people who grew up with nothing, and then they said, boy, it makes more sense when you learn more Jewish stuff, Lois. So, and I would say that my contribution to the relationship between Jews and Christians is that the people who have read my books ask much more intelligent, mature questions, that where instead of kind of having the idea of Pharisees, that I quote all of these incredible rabbis, and then my own friends didn't quite catch on. The people that you keep calling the Pharisees are the same people as those rabbis that I quote that you say, oh, they're really wise. Oh, maybe I quit insulting them then.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It's powerful, Lois. That's
so
important work. Yeah, that's progress.
I would say that I think you can't ask good questions until you have a little bit of a background. And the fact that Christians maybe have a little more of the lingo, they know what the Shema is, and they understand a little more of Jewish thought, they can interact at a better level. And I think just by starting, I think a lot of people feel much more relaxed about starting a conversation with their Jewish neighbors because they've gotten so curious about Jewish stuff because I've been teaching about it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
I'm just out of curiosity. What are a couple Jewish sources, like Jewish sources that like kind of are go-tos for you? I'm just curious. What do you like to pull off your shelf a lot when you're
okay? The guy who I love here, I'll go sneak over. Let's see, is it in my thing? No, it might not be right here. Okay, that's okay. The person who I quote a lot about contemporary ethics. And, we have Jesus teaches a lot about ethics, how to live. Joseph Telushkin, Rabbi Joseph Telushkin.
Yeah.
He's prolific. Amazing. He's written lots of books but he wrote several books on Jewish ethics, which are biblical ethics. And they're brilliant and wonderful. And they're all straight out of the Bible and tells great stories. I love Telushkin.
Oh yeah, and you mentioned Heschel too. Yeah. You sounds like you're a fan of, and I know you referenced Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel quite a bit too.
Heschel is good, but he's really actually way beyond where Christians are. People, they'll say, "Oh, read the Sabbath. It's so small." They don't understand it. They don't know, because he's talking about how people do things in the synagogue, and the Christians they don't know what the heck. Heschel's he is not the first person you should read of, but he's great. I mean, after the 10th one, honestly, my JPS Torah commentaries, I love them. It's kind of in between. Yeah. They'll quote rabbinic material, but they'll quote, the latest theories. And so I like the fact that it kind of puts one foot in the academic world and one foot in the traditional world, and does a very good job of explaining traditional Judaism, even though it has some academic. So you'll say, well, there are other theories about this and this and this too, so that are critical, and that's okay too. So those are just a couple samples of favorite basic things that I go to. And I have to say this group of scholars, one of them, his name is David Biven. He's an American he published a journal. His journal is called Jerusalem Perspective, and it has lots and lots of articles by Jews and Christians on Jesus's Jewish first century context. Excellent. So that's one of my other major favorite sources.
Oh, these are great.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good to know Lois Tverberg's go-to sources. So you're giving away your secrets to us.
I'm giving you my secrets. Yeah, that's right. So
yes. All right. We want them. We want them. That's great.
So those are my.
Oh, thank you.
All of my books have a thick. Well, you were saying I like scholarship, and so I usually have a big chunk of endnotes in the back, and then I have big bibliography. And then I say, when people say, well, where do you get this? Well, go open up my endnotes and go read that.
Yeah, and that's a gift, because that's a very helpful way that people can learn and dig into the sources you're digging into. Yeah. And so that's good stuff. Mm-hmm. So Lois, I want to ask you again about a couple of your other books before we turn towards a close. But so in 2012, you released Walking in the Dust of Rabbi Jesus, which really builds upon sitting at the feet of Rabbi Jesus. And in this book, you go even deeper into Jesus's teachings, or into how Jesus's teachings fit within his Jewish context and the broader world of Jewish thought. Mm-hmm. And there are so many, rich insights, but your discussion, and we've already brought this up a little bit, but your discussion of the Shema, I thought, was really excellent in that book. So in the second chapter of walking in the dust of Rabbi Jesus. You explain that the Shema is not simply a statement of belief, but it's an oath. And I thought that was really good, clear language. You said it's an oath of loyalty, and I think that's a significant reframing. So let's talk about the Shema a little bit.
Okay.
Why is that? Because I think that's something that a lot of people have heard of, but maybe don't understand.
Yeah.
As well. So, but why is this central prayer of Judaism so important for Christians also to understand? And why is it important to understand it as an oath of allegiance rather than just a doctrinal statement?
Yeah, right. Yeah. First, I should say I wrote about that in this is my Walking in the Dust of Rabbi Jesus book. And I wrote about, and I will quote, as a scholar, I can't not tell you my source. It's Jeffrey Tigay, who talks about in his Deuteronomy commentary, says, the major basic, the thing that sticks out when Christians read the Shema is the words Shema Israel. Well, they don't read them in Hebrew. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is your God, the Lord is one. And then that word ahad is a big problem, and then they start debating ahad and Trinity and all of those things. And Tigay says, that's really, well, you can find books on that, but he says, it's in Zechariah where it says in that day, it's kind of in the final day.
Zechariah 14.
14, the Lord's name will be ahad, and he will be ahad. And you can see that it isn't about counting how many gods there are. It's about his name alone will be worshipped. There will be no more idols, and his name will be the only name worshipped. And in the same way, the Shema is about worshiping God alone. And so Tigay points out, and then, if you're saying, well, what about monotheism? Isn't it going to talk about that? Well, actually, you turn one chapter away, and it's all about you have it says, you have seen all these things that that the Lord is God and he alone has, it's all about, God is the true God. So it's not like it's definitely very monotheistic, but this passage is not about that. It's about, if you need both, there's two lines here. Here, the Lord is your God, the Lord alone, and you're wholly committed to him. And because you're wholly committed to him, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, because you're wholly committed to. You see, the two actually build on each other, and they are repeating each other, and it's because it's about being wholly committed to worshiping God. That's the idea behind the word ahad. It's not about counting how many gods there are. It's about being, and that's why it's an oath of commitment. And, as much as you call it a prayer, it doesn't have a petition. It's a thing being told to Israel about how your relationship is from God. You're not really even praying it to God. I mean, you're saying it to yourself.
Yeah, I like it's an oath. It's almost like a pledge of allegiance,
Right. Yep.
And so I think that's a great way to put it. And you really put that clearly in your book.
So, and I should say that I actually, it's like the Lord kind of added a little more here, not to segue to my next book.
Well, that's okay. We're going there. Yeah.
This one, my next book, but I wrote more about it that actually adds to that. In a chapter, it's called Hebrew Brain, Greek Brain. Where I'm talking about Western versus non-Western thinking. And the whole question, that I had when I actually was in this little class with Ray is like, could you just give me some kind of creed that the Jewish people read? I just need to understand their beliefs. Just tell me, because I want to know their mental theories about everything, because that's what it's all about, is our beliefs and our mental theories.
Yeah. Systematic theology, right? Yeah.
Oh, yes, that's it. And then And I assumed when I was given the Shema, and not just those first, those are only the first 2 lines.
Right.
The next section says, if you obey me with all your heart and soul,
yeah.
I will provide grass in the field for your cattle, and you will eat and be satisfied. I will bless, your grain, your new wine and oil. And I remember sitting going, wait, no, this is not a creed. We're talking about cows. Yeah. There's no, what the heck are cows doing in a creed? And so you're probably like, what are you going to say, Lois? I was waiting for them to talk about, I believe in the forgiveness of sins and the resurrection of the world to come. You don't talk about, that's not in the Shema. But what it is it's beyond an oath. This part is now, to me, I would call it a recollection of history. This ancient point where the Jewish people were standing on Mount Sinai, and God is saying, we make a covenant, and I will provide grass on the field for your cattle if you obey me. And it is a recollection of history. It's not a mental theory about stuff. This actually happened. And you are recalling every day, you're going, I recommit myself to what my great grandparents committed themselves to. Yeah. And so that to me shifts the whole conversation away from, what are your theories? I don't know. What are your theories? God didn't try to just come and fix our theories. He said, okay, this little group of people, just those Jews or the Israel, I'm going to give them a bunch of Torah laws, and they're going to obey me, and I'm going to show them what I'm like. I'm going to come visit them. Yeah. At least us Christians believe that. And then we're going to learn what God is like by experiencing him. It's not about mental theories as much as knowing and serving and repenting of your sins. It really isn't just about belief systems. It is about God is demanding a response. I created you, and you must love and serve me.
I think that's good. And again, you articulate all this is I think helping to bring such important emphasis in that, the Shema is something that expresses so much of what is emphasized in the Bible is that God wants allegiance. Yeah. He wants loyalty. He wants a relationship, alone. And so, and that's why in Judaism, like we say the Shema multiple times a day, and even right before bedtime, we do like a little brief Shema in order to just, again, pledge our allegiance to the God of Israel. And so I just think it's such an important emphasis in your book. People have heard the word, heard that word, the word, and they know it's a part of Judaism, but just kind of bringing it out and why it's even so important to understanding the world of Jesus and the New Testament, I think is important that you've done that work.
Thank you. Yes.
So, yeah. Mm-hmm. So I want to ask you about your the book you just held up, your 2017 book, which is hold it up. Yes, there you go. I've got it right here too, but it's at the bottom of my stack. Okay. So there it is, Reading the Bible with Rabbi Jesus. And so in this book, you're trying to, as you put it, you're trying to bridge the gap between Jesus' world and modern Bible readers. Mm-hmm. And you introduce so many important ideas, but one of the ideas I just want to ask you about briefly is this powerful idea of learning to read the Bible as natives. And one of the ways that you help readers to do this is through what you call reading the Bible as a we. Reading the Bible as a we, like W-E. So you refer to this as we thinking. So why, Lois, talk to us about why we thinking is so important when we approach the Bible.
Yes, thinking as a we, not as an I. And now I'm really talking about Christians and Americans, not just around, but as an American, Americans are incredibly individualistic. The Bible, the belief is all in my head. It is all me and God, me, and God, and everything and then people are encouraged to pick up their Bibles and read it as if it was written just to them. And I start this chapter about there is actually a Bible version that you can buy. It's actually, you buy it and you tell them your name, and then they put your name into the Bible in 7,000 plus places.
No way.
Yes. So
I haven't heard of this. I got to look this up. That's a new one for me.
It's called
interesting.
The U Bible version, where it says things like, Lois is the light of the world.
Oh my goodness.
But Lois has sinned and gone astray, and the Lord has laid upon him the iniquity of us all. Or it'll just be, and the iniquity of her, because it's all about you, me. And it's all about me personally. That's how we read our Bibles, which you kind of say, well, kind of, yeah. I told some friends about that, and a lot of friends were laughing, and one was like, "Ooh, I want to get a gap. I want that."
Yeah. Where do I buy that?
And it's personal and it's relatable, but yet, once I started realizing, well, part of the reason why we need to think as a we instead of as an I is because that's how the people in the Bible thought. And you miss major basic things when you aren't thinking as, here's one simple big way.
Yeah.
Jesus keeps talking about the kingdom of God. Kingdom. And I used to say, oh, that's such an abstract concept. It's hard to understand. A kingdom is a group of people. And he's talking about the people who God, of course, there's a hint of his own kingship. There's a hint of, I'm proclaiming that God now is speaking to his people who worship him as king, but it is about the people. And there's a group of you involved. That's one major thing.
That's a great example. Yeah, that whole concept assumes a we mindset. Yeah.
That, of course, that people care about. And you hear that when you hear Anna and in the temple when Jesus is a baby and they bring him to the temple and everybody's like, oh, now has God saved Israel? Is it about, they're all asking that question. And I'm sitting there going, why does anybody care? I thought we just care about our own basic personal salvation and our sins. And why do we care about Israel?
Great point.
I have to say, this is another thing. And I mean, now I'm talking about maybe in the future, people won't know that just a couple days ago, there was a horrible shooting of Jews in Australia and there are so many Christians who have no sense of, we have a debt to our Jewish brothers and sisters. And, we have often persecuted them. I know a lot of Christians who don't have any sense of we or any sense of that. And that's actually part of it. Often it keeps talking about the name, the name of God, which is, and we've got all sorts of stuff, but often it talks about, why is God so concerned about his name? You have profaned my name, or, to profane the name of God or to hallow God's name. Well, it is because of is that, God exists everywhere, but humans, how God is perceived depends upon his name. His name is his identity as it is known by humans.
Sure.
And so to hallow God's name is to bring God, to proclaim how wonderful he is so that the rest of the world will know he's a good God. And to profane his name is to do something reprehensible and say, God told me to. Like the terrorists who say Allahu Akbar, and then they shoot somebody like their God told them to go shoot somebody. Well, you made everybody hate your God. But it is communal, is that even God exists in community with humans, and he cares about his relation. You talk about his relationship with us, and to proclaim his name. The Jewish people at Hanukkah, they are proclaiming the miracles of God's redemptive plan towards his people.
Yeah.
And Christians proclaim his presence on earth. And we are, both Jews and Christians are called to spread the name of the loving presence of God and teach the world about that. And that is communal. It's all communal.
Yeah, it is.
You got to know the we part of it. So
yeah, that's real. It's such an important concept, and it's so countercultural, as you said. It's so un-American or un-Western, but boy, it's the kind of thing that truly brings, to use a good Hebrew phrase, tikkun olam.
Amen.
It brings repair when we start to have that we mindset that really saturates the Bible. And so I just think that I just wanted to highlight that. And I would just want to encourage folks, if you haven't read that 2017 book, Walking in the Dust of Rabbi Jesus, just that chapter alone.
This is reading the Bible. Sorry. That's that one.
Reading. I had it out. Reading the Bible with Rabbi Jesus is where the we emphasis section is. And that's worth getting the book just for that alone. So Lois, as we start to wrap up, I'd love to just zoom out for a moment. You've spent a lot of years helping Christians engage Jesus and the New Testament in ways that are historically grounded and that really help people just to go deeper in their faith and their understanding, and to be more respectful towards Judaism. All these things that are wrapped up that are fruit of your work. So when you think about your books, your teaching, the conversations you've been a part of, what do you ultimately hope that your work accomplishes in the lives of your readers?
I think the quest has always been to know and love the God of the scriptures better, and to know my Bible better. And I still am. I'm always reading Jewish things. I always like Jewish things. But to me, it's more specifically about the Bible. It's about knowing God more and understanding our Bibles better and understanding the love of God for humanity. So,
yeah. Well, you've done a marvelous job of that. And so, Lois, I just want to thank you for your work, for this conversation. Your work has really been a gift. Not only in helping Christians understand Jesus in his Jewish world, but also encouraging, I think, a way of reading the Bible that's more humble, more curious, and I love that about you. You're so curious, and you help others to be curious. And as we've noted multiple times, more honoring of Judaism and Jewish sources and Jewish people.
Yep.
So, at Bridge Builders Forum, that's just the kind of work that we're committed to helping Jews and Christians to think more carefully, listen more deeply, and relate to each other just with greater clarity and respect. And so your work has made a difference for many years in helping people do just that. So I just know I speak for many when I just express my gratitude for your heart, your work. And so before we go though, so that was, I just want to acknowledge just your great work, but what are you working on these days before we sign off? Just, I think our listeners would love to know what's next for Lois Tverberg.
Okay. There's a couple things. One that this one's, I just threw it out in passing, and it probably will be the first thing that you hear about. But my very first book that, before I even wrote my sitting books, was one.
Okay.
This is the old book. It's called Listening to the Language of the Bible, Hearing It Through Jesus' Ears. And it has lots of little short, one-page discussions of Hebrew words.
Yeah.
And
it's Hebrew words.
Yes,
nice.
Exactly. And
okay.
I published this 20 years ago. And then we wrote a Bible study that went along with it. And focus on the family. The same people who worked with Ray on his videos said, hey, can we help publish that? And so I just handed in my edits on a new version of Listening to the Language of the Bible. And it's about Hebrew words, and not just the words, but it's what I say is cultural concepts. Idea, I just talked to you about hallowing the name. What does that mean? And kingdom, what does that mean? And blood. Why is it a big deal about yeast? What's the deal about all these little?
Good question.
Yeah. I don't get it. And then you tell them, they're like, oh, that's helpful. So it's lots of aha nuggets and helpful things. And then I wrote my Bible study that people can do. And it's like, wow, this makes much more sense. So
Lois, when will that be available?
It's supposed to come out this fall, October of this year. I was a little slow, and I'm not sure if
it was supposed to come out in the fall of 2025.
No, it hasn't. No, fall of 2026.
2026.
To come out. But I was a little slow in getting my edits in, and so I'm not sure if they're going to get their parts. We don't know. We think it's going to be out, I think, this fall. I think so.
Okay. But then, all right. So we'll be looking for that in the fall of 2026. And it sounds like it's something that people can just read, just read one page a day and learn and take it in and then do a study. And that's great. Great stuff. Yep. Well, we're looking forward to that. Lois, keep up the great work. Just again, appreciate your time and your career, and looking forward to more great things. And thanks for being with us today.
Thank you. Great to chat.
All right. All the best.
Okay.
Hey, I would love to connect with you further. So feel free to leave a comment or send me a private message. And the best way for us to stay in touch is to sign up for the Bridge Builders Forum email at bridgebuildersforum.com. This will keep you informed of cutting-edge resources and opportunities for us to connect and learn together. Additionally, the Bridge Builders Forum is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and your support helps us create content that overcomes misunderstandings and advances ideas that build bridges between Jews and Christians. So we'll be back soon to discuss more ideas that help Jews and Christians better understand their faith, the Bible, and each other.